Hello. This is Claudia Lasala here. It's virtual brown bag time. As usual, we get started here with a quick intro as to what the virtual brown bag is all about. Give folks some time to join in and also explain what these meetings are all about, if in case you are new. What we do here is we get together every week and we share tips and tricks, things around tools, shortcuts, maybe articles or books, blog posts or whatever it is that you've read the last couple of days that you may feel like sharing with other people. We share experiences, maybe something you've learned the hard way and you would like to, share your experiences with other people. That would be great. We share frustrations or difficulties. Maybe you're trying to do something or you've been trying to do something and you're facing some sort of trouble. Just bring it up. Maybe somebody else has gone through the same pain and could help you out. Sometimes we just do a live troubleshooting session here. Sometimes we help you with addressing the problem. Sometimes at least we can point you out in the right direction, hopefully. The idea here is really to have a conversation type of thing. So somebody else, may just bring up a topic and start talking about that topic, and everybody else just jumps in and start, sharing experiences. We do this every Thursday from 12 to 1 Central Time here on live meeting, free, open for everybody. Anybody who would like to share or learn. Doing both is even better. The more people we get to share, the better. This is a partial list of topics we've covered so far, with being all over the place, and this is what one of the things that's really appealing about these meetings. We have an official virtualbrownbag.com website that you can share the link with friends, co-workers, everybody, so that over time we can get more and more people doing the sharing part here, and also commenting and asking questions and stuff like that. Over there you can find a link to the wiki where we keep notes and links that were shared, stuff like that. We also record all these meetings so that you can watch it later in case you've missed the meeting or in case you want to review something that we've discussed. And there's a page where you can suggest a topic. You can either suggest your own topic, you can vote for topics. It could be something that you would like to talk about yourself, something that you'd like to have somebody else talk about. It doesn't matter. Just put the topic in there, which allows people to vote for topics, and we just keep an eye on those to make sure that we're tackling areas that are of general interest. The way it works, somebody like myself or JB or George will start this meeting the way I'm doing right now, explain what the minimal rules here are, and then we just keep taking turns as to who's essentially leading the conversation at one point in time. So if there's anything you would like to share, you can turn your feedback flag on live meeting to yellow, or you can just unmute your microphone and say, hey, I have something here that I would like to share, and that's all good. If you want to ask questions, you can use the live meeting Q&A feature to type out your questions. You can also use that to send us links or to just put general comments in there. That would be fine too. And if you have a microphone, just unmute yourself and start talking. That's how we roll here. If you're going to be doing some sharing on live meeting, we can promote you to a presenter through live meetings interface, and that way you can get a feature that allows you to share something on your screen, either your entire desktop, a selected area, or a given program, maybe your browser, maybe your IDE, whatever it is that you would like to share. And if afterwards you have ideas, questions, suggestions that you'd like to send us, at any point in time, just shoot us an email, get a hold of us on Twitter, however you would like to do it. And I guess, as usual, I'll just go down a brief list of stuff that I've collected over the course of the last week. And then, let's see. Cool, I already see that George will have stuff to share with us. So George's coming up next. So let's see. This morning, I've posted to my blog here a list of videos from the Houston Code Camp that happened last Saturday. I was there just to attend sessions exclusively, and I've had a lot of fun just getting some very neat topics there, and also just hanging out with people. And I got both the videos that I've recorded, plus the ones that Alper has recorded, and I've posted it here, so you should be able to watch all of them. Ben's talk on Git was pretty good. I've learned a bunch of stuff there, even though I'm not using Git full time. I use it just a little bit, but I am using Mercurial, and the idea behind branching and stuff like that is very similar. So I've learned some things there. JB had his Vim talk, which was really good, and now I keep using Vim at least for an hour a day, and then I switch over to whatever it is that makes me, get unstuck from what I'm doing, but I'm getting more and more comfortable with it, at least with the basics, because right now I'm just at the basics stage, and it's been working out great. Let's see, what else? Jimmy Bogart had a very good session, the crafting wicked domain models. Pretty cool. It's very, very similar to what I was doing, or to what I normally do in .NET, in C#, and also how I've been doing some of those things in Ruby as well. It was a very good and easy session to follow. How to be a master developer. I didn't sit on that one, but I plan on watching it. Let's see. Jesse's talk on MongoDB. Some stuff flew way over my head because I'm still a MongoDB noob, but I managed to learn a couple of things there as well that I did not know about MongoDB. For instance, on the Mac, where the hell does it store the databases that I've created? I didn't know that. I just knew it was working, which was funny. But so just learning that one tidbit was already worth the price of admission for me there. In Service Bus with Jimmy Bogart, and which I didn't set through the session. I'm gonna watch it later. And an intro to Node.js by Mark. That was pretty cool as well. Good stuff there. So that's one blog post, the blog post for the day. The blog post for the week, I guess it was the one from yesterday, where I had a compilation of thoughts from people who I asked about, that I knew, who used to be a .NET developer before and then switched over to Ruby or Ruby on Rails. So I've asked a bunch of my buddies, these 4 questions. What made you look into Rails? Why did you switch over, if that was the case? What do you like about it? What don't you? And what do you miss from .NET, and what don't you? So here I got like the full unedited version of their responses, so you can find it all here. It's a long post, because it's essentially 7 people I've pinged. And there's also the counterpart, which is the edited version of that went to, oops, not here, that went to Ruby source, right? And that one has the edited versions, plus some of my intermission in there, just rounding up thoughts here and there, and, shaving off anything that I try to get, like, what is the overlapping general thing, and also what was special for one person that was not special to the other person, at least not to a point, to mention that as something big, I guess.
Claudio, could I hop in for a second? This is Matt.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting, this idea of switch over, right? Because it sounds like such a black and white thing, when the truth of it is, I wonder, like myself, just kind of, keeping toes in both .NET and Ruby, and there does seem to be this idea that you have to be one or the other, but the truth of it is, you might have activity in both,
Absolutely.
I think, maybe just the idea that you switch to Ruby is something that might keep some .NET people from just exploring it as a starting point. The idea is explore Ruby and also let that be one of your tools that you're proficient in, but it doesn't mean that you abandon everything that you know and can do already in .NET.
Correct.
Now, I don't know how realistic that is. I mean, are there people who employ, coders where today we've taken in a .NET project, and next month, now we've got a Ruby project? I mean, it's a pie in the sky thought, I guess, that you truly live in both places, because the ecosystem is very vast in both of them, and it's hard to keep up to speed with any single one of them, much less two, right? So, I guess you do have to master something. So,
right,
Well,
right.
I think that there is some sort of medium, like I know that I've lived in a world where I was doing mostly .NET before, but doing build scripting with Rake, stuff like that. Which at this point I wouldn't recommend because you got stocky, so you can do PowerShell scripting. But there are these things. I mean, more and more people are. Because I've been hearing about running acceptance tests with Cucumber. So
Yep.
yeah, it's certainly possible. Though I will say I haven't heard of a tremendous amount of people that do that. Plus, Iron Ruby is there for some reason.
Well, that's right, and I mean, we've had one of the guys that I asked about this here was Derek Bailey, and he's one of those people who look into Ruby, Rails, how things are done there, and then since he was doing some .NET, he also created this Albacore, which is essentially just a build system for .NET using like Rake, using Iron Ruby, because it made sense. He saw how it was done in the Ruby land, and he had to go back to .NET to continue some of his work. Well, let's do something a little better, and then he just implemented Albacore with this idea. Again, using Rake and Iron Ruby, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, the point of you don't have to switch over in a sense that, oh, now that's the only thing I'm gonna be doing, right? So yeah, maybe I should have worded some things here and there to make it clear that it's not a switch over in the sense that, oh no, I will never ever do .NET again. That's not the case. It's the case of, okay, this is what I'm gonna be doing most of the time, kind of thing. Right, because I mean, when you're doing Rails or web development, you're essentially using so many things anyways, from HTML to HTML5, CSS, SAS, LESS, and I don't know whatever else. That's that you are going to be using more than one thing. That's just a given, right? Which is kind of different from .NET, because from .NET it's usually, oh yeah, I'm gonna use everything that's .NET-ish, and I'm gonna use WCF and Silverlight and this, that, or the other without even thinking about the other options out there. But yeah, good point. I mean, so far I've had very good feedback about it. Lots of people have been following the stream on Twitter just to see what people are talking about on the article and everything, and most people say, yeah, that's we like that. Those are good thoughts, and this is a good read. So I guess hopefully it will be helpful to people out there, or that so I hope. Cool. So that was that. And then one quick thing, one thing that I've learned at Ben's talk on Git at the code camp was that when he was doing like Git log to see the history log in his repo, he was using this Git log and then -- one line, which shows a very simplified version of the log, because that's something that had been bugging me using either Git or Mercurial, because I would do Git or HD log and I would see like 300 commits, and with all this detail, I'm like, no, I don't want to see all of that. I just want to see a simplified version of that. And that's one of the reasons why I would use for that an IDE that allows me to see just a simplified version. So when Ben showed this simplified version for Git, I said there's got to be something like that for Mercurial that I'm not familiar with. So I just started looking around, and I found a chapter on this book that I actually recommended a couple of months ago, Mercurial, the Definitive Guide by Brian O'Sullivan. And here he talks about...
reading, huh?
What's that?
Recommended without reading, huh?
Well, I didn't read the whole thing, right? I had nuggets like this, right? Because I remember I had found that on the internet for something else that I was looking for, and the book was so good that it helped me again. See, you don't need sometimes to read the entire book to know that it's good. Right, and on this one, on this chapter, he talks about several ways of formatting the output when you're seeing stuff for the log command, right? So eventually I got to a mix of something that I found here and something that George mentioned, which I'm gonna have you talk about it in a little bit, man. what I did was to use this, what was the template? Yeah, so you can essentially do log, and then here he's just saying revision 1, so I just didn't do this one. And then you do template, and then where's the version where he passes some other stuff there? Oh yeah, down here, right? So you can say templates, and then you can format using like what is the date, or how old the thing is, or who's the user who posted. So I created one, and I've put that on an alias in Bash, where I just give the revision number and the description, right? And I tell it to only show like the last 20 or something like that. So it's very quick to show my stuff and see, because sometimes I just want to like roll back a couple of steps in my revision to just try some different things out the way I had it in the past, so to say. So that worked pretty cool. It's very easy to customize that. And then when I asked George, he also mentioned about, so what was the thing you mentioned, man? Was glog?
Glog, yeah.
Right.
So install the extensions.
Right. So that was pretty cool too. So that's essentially a way to see a graphical log in the command line. So essentially just uses ASCII characters to format the log, showing even like the little branch lines and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool too. So I essentially created aliases in Bash for both the simplified version and then the version with the graphs. So I can see that on the command line real quick, and also only showing like the last 10 or so, because that's usually what I'm interested in. And if I want to see like the full history, I still rather just go to the visual tool, that it makes it easier, at least on my eyes, to follow along and see what's going on. So that was pretty cool. And that's, I think those were the most important things I had to share today. So George, I'll make you a presenter, man, and you can go to town with it. Let's see, there you go.
Let me share my screen, don't you?
Yeah.
Desktop. All right. Well, yeah, let me show you what it is that I was talking about. Oh yeah, I can only show, I can't show my Ubuntu machine. So here was a time tracker. Can you guys hear me and see me?
Yep.
Okay. Here's the time tracker thing that me and Claudio did a year ago for Houston Tech Fest. So this is just a simple extension. Well, one way to do it is if you have Tortoise, you can go ahead and you can go to Tortoise HD. This is probably the easiest way. Go to Global Settings or Repository Settings. Let's go to Global Settings. And it'll pop up this dialog, which we will see in a minute. Oh. Coming up. Global Settings. Oh. Not sure where it is. Oh. There it is. Alright, so it'll pop up this little dialog. And if you click here under extensions, now extensions in Mercurial are really simple. They're just written in Python. Wow, everything just got real slow. Oh, it's this sharing thing again. Great. Yeah, this stuff slows down my computer to a ridiculous degree. So, Mercurial actually comes packaged with some standard extensions that are just downloaded for you. They're not enabled by default. But if you go to here, extensions, you can see them all, and you can go ahead and enable them. I think I've talked about them a little bit. Like, I very, very much recommend Graph Aug. I very, very much recommend Purge, which are the two I showed you. Also, bookmarks. This is kind of cool, but not nearly as necessary. So, what this does is it edits your file. So in this case, I think it looks for, you can find online where it looks for either mercurial ini in your user directory or a .hrc in your user directory, and it's like one takes precedence over the other. But you can kind of see, yeah, this is actually not even it. There's another file somewhere. This isn't including the exceptions. I don't know which file is, but I'll show you anyway. And you could do this on the level of the repository as well as on a global level. But if I do something like edit in my user directory .hrc, it'll pull up that file. It's empty for me. I don't know where it's been defined, probably in some other location. But the simplest way to define an extension, to include an extension, if you do not have Tortoise HG, like Claudio, for example, is on a Mac, is you open up this file, you type extensions. So this is a simple ini format. This is your extension section, extension, whatever. And then just any of these names, you just type the name, raf log, and then normally, then you put an equals, and normally on the right side of the equal sign, you put a path to the extension if you downloaded it. But since it's one of the ones that's packaged with Mercurial, you can just leave it blank, and it can take a guess and see it. And then you just save it, and it'll start working. And what it looks like is this. I'm not going to save it, but basically what happens is, so normally I can do HG log. And this is the thing that Claudia was actually asking about. L5 will limit it, so I only get the last 5 results.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go. And but if I do now HGG log dash L, let's say 8. You see, it's kind of red. It does the same thing, but it renders it as like a little ASCII diagram right there. So, while I could go ahead and right-click on this, and this is going to take forever to open again, and go to my repository explorer, and that's going to open up a window, and yada yada yada. This HGG log will show you the exact same thing, just in an ASCII format, which I find is great for like 90% of the cases. So it's showing me the same thing. So that's one thing that I recommend. Another thing that I recommend, let's see, so if I run HGST, it'll tell you, okay, and it'll tell me what the status of directory is. So let me go ahead and now I'm going to go ahead and put that in there, a little test file. So HGST, it'll tell me I have one file and that it doesn't know about. It's called test file.txt. There's another one of the standard plugins is HG Purge, and basically what it will do, it will go through and see any untracked files, so anything with a question mark next to it, and delete them. And that is great for like cleaning out build artifacts or something like that. So now HGST, that file's gone. So that was just kind of the thing I went over with Claudio yesterday. Anything else about it, Claudio?
I think that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to kind of share. I did a presentation on my all of JavaScript presentation up at the Baton Rouge .NET Developers User Group the other day. So I created this little samples page going through some of the examples that I have in there that might be useful for people. So I've just embedded my presentation, embedded a slideshow thing, and then here there's some samples that I have. And when you click on these, it's going to go out, and it will do a query and bring it in and syntax color and everything for you. It might be interesting if you ever want to, see how you do public, privates, and statics in JavaScript. It should work. Is it not working for some reason? Reload it. I didn't put a tremendous amount of time. I put like an hour into this, including figuring out how to do all the syntax highlighting. There we go. Sometimes you just gotta reload it. So basically, there you go. you click on these examples and it'll bring the code in and jump it out and run it as well, so that you can kind of see the output in the console of the code as it's running.
One thing to take a look at, George, which is kind of cool. I'm trying to think who did it at Lone Star Ruby Conference. I think it might have been Jesse, but I think he was using, like, Google has some new HTML5 style presentation, and so what he did that for his slides, but then he embedded a JavaScript engine somewhere. And so he didn't have to leave his slides to do the JavaScript stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Really? Yeah, so if you're doing a lot of JavaScript stuff and it's like your passion, to me that was pretty awesome because it was all in one go.
Right.
An HTML5 thing embedded in it. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of the inverse.
You get the details. I'll get the alphabet soup for you and send it your way.
Yeah, it was really cool because he would okay, first slide is an introduction, the next slide it has the little thingy there with his sample already in place, and then the next one, more slide, and then the next one, the next sample. That was brilliant.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. So if anybody wants to play with this and just look around and see if there's any code in there you'd like to rip off or anything from there, it's tinyurl.com. 0811, that's the month I gave the presentation, -BRDD, that's Baton Rouge.net user group, -examples. And so you can go there and that will drop you to this page, which is running out of my Dropbox. So it's like super simple. And yeah. And you can click on that. I actually kind of had fun with doing this stuff. I can show you the code a little bit. I just created this LI thing, and then this is the code to just do it. So I include jQuery from Google, and then I am just going through, and when you click a link in that list, it's going ahead and creating a script tag, and then it's it's creating a script tag. It's sending the href out on that tag to whatever the href in that A is, and then it is just appending it to the body. And then at the same time, it's issuing an AJAX query, which is just going to return the same thing that's cached. And it's wrapping it in a pre-formatted class, and then it's just appending that to there and running syntax highlighter on it. And this is what you need for syntax highlighter. So pretty cool stuff. I kind of liked figuring out how to do all this. So that's basically all I had to share. All these samples are referenced from the presentation. There's one more thing. Oh, I had a question for JB or anyone else who was using Jasmine for testing. JB, you guys are using Jasmine, right?
Yeah.
How do you actually integrate it into your project? Like, what does the Jasmine gem do exactly?
We weren't using the gem or anything because it was just JavaScript. Let's say integration. Our integration was very minimal and manual. So we just had the spec runner and we'd run it. So we didn't have it included in build script. But you can include it in build scripts, etc. I think I didn't sit in on the Jasmine talk at Lone Star Ruby Conference, but I think that was one of the big things they're talking about. Like, did you sit on that one, Claudio?
I did, but I don't think I got the whole thing though.
Okay, because I think that's what they're doing. It's like, because people are like, this is all great, but I want to power my build script, I want to integrate it, and there are ways of doing it. People are doing it. I just don't know how. So for me, I just run the runner.
Well, I was asking on their GoogleNet list, and they were saying some stuff, but I'm just kind of interested because there's so many examples, and really high quality examples of how to use it, and it's not a terribly complex framework. Jasmine, BDB. But there's no examples out there of how to actually integrate it into your project. So one of the big questions that I was asking, and actually, how do you guys do it? Do you no, I don't want that. none of that. Do you guys just have a page inside of your actual application, just called like Run All Tests or something like that?
Oh, I see. For us, I think it's not going to be a good measurement for me because we're doing phone gap and we're deploying it. Is in its own separate folder where we have tests, and when we're running it locally, we're running on top of the Sinatra app, so we have several routes, and one of the routes does tests. And so I have one route that does tests for the entire project, but then I have another route that everyone kind of manages themselves. So like if you're working on a particular feature, it only runs that one spec, so you can keep on iterating over and not run the entire gambit of stuff.
Okay. So it's not. All right. Yeah.
I would say our process is really mature. It works. That's what it is.
See if I can. Let's see if I can see. Yeah, because I was asking on here and I got a couple responses, but I really would like to see like an open source project that has a suite of Jasmine tests, and so I could just copy what they're doing, especially an ASP MVC open source project. Because I kind of posed some ideas on like how to do it, but well, if you're communicating with the server side, you have to, and you actually want to run tests that actually go up against the server side, you have to jump through all sorts of stubbing hoops and everything.
But I think on for stubbing, you do have to jump through a lot. But there was some stubbing library that I'm using. I forgot the Synonym maybe, and it was really awesome. I really liked it. Especially for my phone gap stuff, because then I could stub phone gap calls. But then for like the Ruby side, I don't know exactly what the gym is doing, but based on what I understand Ruby Racer does, you could probably do a lot of that stuff with Ruby Racer. So you could actually test Ruby and JavaScript working together at the same time. But that could just be crazy talk. Ruby Racer was pretty impressive. We haven't taken a look at it. I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I would expect that. I would expect that probably. It would be recommended that you don't test against server-side stuff at the same time, but I don't know if they're like explicitly going against it. That's kind of where the question lies for me. But yeah,
I think it's a matter of preference.
Yeah.
Because we were testing some integration calls because just in our project, it made sense. Our project entire JavaScript, and sometimes we need some integration tests, so our Jasmine did integration tests. And that was one of the routes. We had one route that was like, these are integration tests put inside here.
Right. All right. Cool. Well, that was just my question. All right, who's next?
I think JB is online.
Yeah, I can share some stuff. I can finally do some backbone talk.
Awesome.
All right, give me a second. You have to promote me first, and then
I just did.
I was working on some code navigation. All right, so let's get this content. Share. Let's quit out of things where people can send me crazy messages. Yes. All right. Okay, so I'll just share just some backbone stuff. I know I've been talking about it and how I've been using it. This is pretty informal. I don't have anything really prepared, but at least get to start sharing some of the ideas. I got all my info, or I started my info using the peep code screencast from Backbone, which is really helpful. There's a part 2 now. I haven't seen part 2. I've only seen part 1. So a lot of stuff I'll be showing is stuff that was there as well. So I'm also using WebStorm. So actually, let's see if I can remember where I can change this. I just downloaded this from my PC. This is the IDE from JetBrains that was shared, was it 2 weeks ago? A week ago when the JetBrains guy came out?
Yeah, 3 weeks, I think.
3 weeks? God, so I want to change the font size. I'm trying to figure out how I do that. Editor. Colors and fonts. That seems like a winner. Yeah. Font size.
Yeah, so the way it works, it's like RubyMine. You have to create your own based on this, and then you make changes. There you go.
There we go. How about that? Let's see what. Oh, look at this. Doesn't the ID look awesome? Negative. All right. So I have my virtual brown bag demo. All right. So let's kind of go over what I'm assuming people know what how I'm talking about when I say Backbone. So Backbone JS, it's a model view pattern with, I guess you could say, controller. It's kind of weird. Some of that stuff just blends on together. But the most important part of it is, I think this is the big intro. So this is when I was reading the first couple sentences, I was like, exactly. So when you're working with a web app and has a lot of JavaScript, it's easy to create a JavaScript application that ends up being entangled piles of jQuery selectors and callbacks. And I'm like, oh, don't I know it? So when we first wrote this application, and it was crazy complicated, and it was hard. It was the most embarrassing code I've ever written. Where it's like, if we handed this off, I've been like, I'm sorry, this is horrible. We all know better. But then we brought in Backbone, and it provided that structure that you could feel proud about your code. That, like, it was complex, but it wasn't ugly, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to kind of, if you can see from here, we thought about using Backbone in April, but if you look at the main page, it's more of a reference than it is a tutorial on how to do it. And they have these examples, and these are a lot more than it used to be. But the examples I didn't really find that useful because a lot of it was like, this is the end product, but they didn't show the workflow on how to create the stuff. So again, it was very hard to do, to work through. Backbone is built upon another library that I've shared before, Underscore. So if we look at my index, I'm also including jQuery. So I have jQuery underscore Backbone. So that's the base of what I'm working on. So the first thing to take a look at with Backbone is Backbone has an idea of models. So let's just keep it on line here. So So what you generally do is you wrap this function. I think I always have to look at this. Probably all those guys who actually know JavaScript know what the hell this is all doing. But isn't this scoping the stuff inside jQuery? George. So we'll make a model. The model we want to create. Let's just do.
You want a parameter into the function, right?
Yeah, so how do I do that? I always look it up. I know I'm doing this wrong.
Yeah, just function, and then the parameter you're passing in is $.
Yeah, there we go. I thought I had that, and then I took it away because I thought I was wrong.
And actually, one other trick that you can do is after $, pass in a parameter called undefined. Just comma undefined. Because what is undefined is already kind of a keyword in JavaScript, but this doesn't stop anyone from just storing a value in undefined. And
I remember you showing that, and I would really hate to do that.
Right, so this is gonna save you from that.
All right, we'll roll with that then. All right, so we need to make some sort of fake model thing. What do we want to do? Something simple. We'll do notes. We're going to take notes. So we're going to have a note model. So we'll just say backbone model dot extend. Boom, nailed it. And I keep on hitting Command. If you see an S, it's because I'm hitting Command S. So now we have a note. Go back and refresh. Say var n is equal to new note. Or not. Why is it hating on me?
Because that doesn't exist. Yeah, there you go.
So hanging off window. Var n equals new note. Alright, see, this is why it's fun when you just do it on a wing and a prayer. Model, extend. Did we not do that right? I'm going to change that just to see if that's the only problem that's difference. Good note.
You need to put in a jQuery ready.
jQuery is ready?
Because, yeah, your code is running before jQuery and Backbone are loaded. So you've got a self-executing function that maintains your scope. But when you do $, and then pass in a function, and that tells jQuery, don't run this code until all the scripts are loaded. So
yeah, but I don't remember that. So we're gonna pause for that.
I'm guessing in this case what happens
is it maybe just because I've left out before and it matters?
it's possible. I don't know. Try it because I mean this should work. Well, hold on. Type window.note. See if window.note exists in your console.
Oh, I think it's because I did bar in. That's why. There we go. So n equals. So now I have my note. And so one thing you can do with models is you can get and set properties. So if I want to set a property, I say I want to set the title.
I think your screen is frozen for me. I don't know if anyone else is. Oh no, never mind. I got it. Just didn't scroll down far enough.
So I can call set, and then I can call get, and I can get my title. So it's a grab bag of objects. So you can just pull it in, set different properties, and read them. And that's the basic model, but it has a whole lot more. But at first, we'll just have notes. And then what we can do is we want to show a collection of notes. So we want to say notes. There's going to be a backbone collection. So we'll just extend that. And what thing we want to provide is we want to provide what its model is. The model is going to be note. So now let's go to here. Let's refresh this guy. And we can say notes is equal to new notes. And then we can do things like, notes.add new note. And their account. We'll just explore notes itself. So if you take a look at notes now, we have our models, we have an array of those models. How much is the delay?
No. I was saying it's length, not count.
Yeah. So length, yeah. So we can see we have a collection, and all that is lobby freaking DOF. You have models and collections. Now we want to get where we're going to show views, and actually all I'm going to do is take a little detour, and we're going to do routes then views. So one of the things that Backbone is pretty cool is that since it's supposed to be like a client-side application written in JavaScript, you don't really want to do any post-backs, etc. So we have these routes, and so you can have an internal application with the different routes that you go through. So you can click and say, go to this page, go to do this, and it won't actually go all this craziness. Backbone is handling all the navigation. So what we'll do is we're going to create we're going to call this notes app. It's going to be equal to backbone router extend. We're going to make our routes, and we're just going to do the main route, and we're going to say this is going to go to the home. So if we look at here, we make our home function, and this is where we're going to show stuff. So we don't have a view yet, but we can still manipulate the screen. So I created a main div, and we're just going to set this HTML equal to howdy guys. But we need to make sure that this is one of those that we do need to turn on the router after we load everything for the page, what George was talking before. So this is where we would do the document.ready function, and we say backbone backbone dot, I think it's history app or, I'm trying to remember the right syntax. We'll look up. When in doubt, we'll look this guy up. So what was he doing before? Blah, 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 blah. Crap. There's, you initialize it with something. There we go. Backbone history start. History start. Starting backbone. All right. So let's refresh this. Let's see, all right. Then start history. Let's see why he's hating on me. You know me and my sharing.
Check out what backbone.history is. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I thought it was that. Maybe I need to do what we can do.
Examine it. Just, yeah.
What's that?
Just examine it. That shouldn't matter. Just type in into your console, type in backbone.history and see what comes up. Oh, well, there you go.
That's what I was looking.
Yeah.
Let's see if that fixes it. Function has no methods start. So
Okay. Do console.dir of backbone.history.
Console.dir.
Yeah, let's see if that works. And now you can expand that, see.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it just forces this view.
So what I was doing before, I'm thinking of missing is I knew the Notes app up. So that's what I thought I was doing before. So I do something like window.myApp equal to new Notes app. And I'm thinking maybe that's what I'm missing. Then I do window.myApp. History. Start. No, crud. We should stop the operating systems war, and everyone should just take the same command keys everywhere. So every time I switch OS, all my keys stay the same.
Oh yeah.
Well,
all right,
everyone
so
wants to run everything in browser now, don't they?
We're just debugging the hell out of this guy. Start history. Oh, crap. All right, so this is when we do real quick pause as I pull up some client code to copy exactly what I had.
Right. And so while I do that, I just noticed there's a question from Alper. Yes, what is the v.d?
That's just what they return. I probably should know more, but George can answer that.
Well, I don't. I haven't actually used Backbone before, but yeah, that's just what the method's returning. I don't know why it actually shows up as v.d. I guess it would have to be. I guess it would have to be the two-string value of that object or something like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, son of a, like I know it's like right on the tip of my tongue that I've done it. It was just, you do this one method once, it's always those that get you. It's like you did it once, and when you did it, you just copied and pasted, and then you're trying to share it, and you're like, I don't remember what I copied and pasted. So backbone history, that start when all your routers have been created. All right, I'm sharing my screen since I just realized all my client code is not with me anymore since I'm not doing that client stuff anymore. That client. So this is where I'm looking at the history. Serves as a global router, and so this is where we need to set that we're starting. So if we do this. And so it was saying I can just do that. Backbone.history start. When all your routers have been created and all the routes are set up, call backbone.history start. So maybe it's because I didn't initialize my first router. There we go. And hey, there you go, that was it. So, listen, what was going on wrong is I was calling history start before I initialized my router. So, no one knows. So, now we see this. It's loading the doc ready, starting backbone, and then also notice that they call the jQuery and insert howdy guys inside there. So, if we go here, we now have this, and so now we can manipulate the DOM, and what we want to do is we want to show a collection of notes. So, first thing we want to do is...
But this is all ultimately about hashtag navigation, right? We shouldn't lose sight of that.
Yeah,
That's what this really is about.
one called Awesome Sauce. So now if we did this function called Awesome Sauce, we can do, we'll just have two different things. Main.html is and then here we can do okay, so we have howdy guys, and then if we went to awesome sauce, it would go back to awesome sauce, and if I took it all back, we go back to howdy guys.
Yeah. And that's interesting. That could be used outside of the, without all the model stuff. Like, you don't need all that stuff.
Correct, and that was actually one of the first things we're looking at with the site was Scott was saying, you know what, because we're doing some, we had just several screens, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to route between them, and Scott was like, you know, we could just use a backbone router, and so we're like, what's backbone? And so we took a look at it, and we just didn't grok it. And now, since we grok it, we realized we'd go back in time and punch ourselves in the face and say, hey, you should be doing this.
Yeah,
So,
I used jQuery BBQ on my last project, and this is a little simpler. I mean, jQuery BBQ is not horrible by any means, but this is interesting.
So now I'm going to have a notes view, and I'm going to have an initialize function, and I'm going to have a render function. One thing you need to do is because with JavaScript, 9 times out of 10, this is not what you think this is. So that's what my lesson. So what we're doing here is we're binding this to these different functions. So this is an underscore method. So now when you give it into the render method, this is going to be the notes view. And this is the typical pattern that you're going to see in initialize function, and you bind this to your functions. Now in our render, an important part of the render is you need to remember to return this, because it's going to chain a lot of stuff together, and if you don't do it, it doesn't work. Now what we're going to do here is we're not going to have a template engine or do whatever. We're just going to put inside here this .el. Each view has an element, parent element, and which hosts in. That's what this is going to be, and we're going to put inside here and say, oh my God, I am a view. And so inside here, we'll get rid of howdy guys, and what we'll do is we're going to have a view. We're going to say this is a new notes view, and we're going to call view.render, and then we're going to get that parent element and stick it in there. And now we'll watch as it makes me a fan fire. There we go. So boom, there you go. So at first this seems kind of ugly. You're like, what the fudge is this? But after a while you get used to it. You just know that's what the calls you're going to be making.
So who calls notes view and makes it work?
This is the router. The router is creating the notes view, and then we're rendering it.
Well, let's see. Okay, yeah. I see.
All right. So what we're also going to show here is let's do the next step is we're going to use a templating engine, and we're going to use underscores templating engine. And so the first thing we can do is we're going to create the template, and this is a pattern that they were using in Peep code, and I kind of like that. They did script type, and they went text template, and then they would do set, and we'll just do crap. Command right arrow does not go to the end of line in Windows. So we'll do notes template, So inside the notes template, this is what we'll have. This and be like, we'll do H2. Oh my God, I am a notes template view. Now in our notes view, we're going to hold on to this template, and we're going to be template, and we're going to pull in the notes template, like that.
The screen is freeze for anyone else?
Still working for me.
Oh, never mind. Keep going.
Okay. So then I'm going to comment this out. So instead of, actually, I'm not going to comment that out. Oh, man, I want my Vim keys. I'm using the arrows, and I'm like, what the hell? So I'm going to call this .template. And I think that's all I need to do. Again, this is me trying to remember back in my head how I was doing stuff. All right, so let's refresh. All right, so what's going on? There's no method replace underscore. So let's go back here. No, you big liar, calling me a liar. All right, let me go back here, take a look at underscore template. So this is also pretty good debugging because you can show that they're actually the process of it. So we have a template that we're passing in. We should be passing in the collection of stuff. So if we go back, that's what this guy is doing. We might need to be calling .html.
It could be.
Maybe that's what's going on. Let's try that. There we go. That was going on. So let's go through steps and as I debug, what was I thinking and how I was going into this. So underscore.template is expecting some string to represent the template. We're getting that string by going to the notes template element on our document. And then I didn't have the HTML, so it was returning a jQuery object. So it was going, I can't do anything with this. So I needed to call .html so that then we get the contents of that element. Then inside this method call, we're finding the element and we're sticking in its HTML contents. We're calling template, we're calling a function, and then we're passing in data. And right now we're passing in the empty data, empty hash. And so then that is how that is processed. So let's take a look at that and say, what if we want to give a title to it? So let's give a title. Let's say this title is going to be equal to notes are grand. Now we can use that in a template. If we go up here, we can then say this H2 is like ERB syntax. I can say title. And so now if I go here and hit refresh, boom, I get my notes are grand. So that's how at the beginning we're getting the template. We just hit the title, put it in there, and start going through this. And I'm realizing it's like 1 o'clock, and we haven't even touched a lot of stuff.
Holy cow.
So what we can do is I can probably table this, bring it up next week, see if people like it, do whatever, and we keep on going. I don't know, have people enjoyed this, or when we keep on going? I like background.
I need to learn this. Yeah. I've been meaning to learn about backbone, so let's go.
All right. I'll keep going. I got nothing else going on. All right. So I have notes view, and it's going to have a collection of notes. Well, this is, right now I don't have a collection of notes, so let's create a collection of notes.
It can tell you on Spectre where it calls effect out, where people trying to make calls.
What was that, Tom? You're cutting out there.
Talk to your sisters. Talk to your sisters. So that they better not.
Yeah, I'm not following that.
No, yeah, it's broken up.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Maybe type in the Q&A so I can see. How do I partition all this stuff out for? The template stuff, I couldn't find any solution better than sticking an index, so that kind of is a pain point for me right now. But technically, it's just strings, so you can put it anywhere, I guess. I just haven't found it. But the other stuff, I do partition out into different JavaScript files. There's no reason why this needs to be anywhere. So in our project, I would have a notes file, a notes view, et cetera. You look and there's tons of JavaScript files. So you're like, oh my God, tons of JavaScript files. But our build process, if you're in the phone gap talk we're talking about, we'd take all the JavaScript files, and part of the build script would run JSON lint on all of it, and then minify it.
Or there'd be some fines. No. Oh, there it is.
Weird.
I thought it was PC Vicky.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna mute Tom. I think it's just bleeding from side conversations there.
So normally for getting data, what you can do for these models and why it plays really well with Rails is that you can just provide a URL and it will automatically do the syncing process and post to those URLs. All the backbone, every model has a sync method, but then there's also a global sync. So what we'll do here is we're just going to stub this stuff out so you can see it in action now. So we'll have backbone.sync, and it was a function, and you pass in, I think it's method, model, and options. So this is going to override this stuff. So if I do console.log, we can see backbone sync, and we're going to have method, and then we're going to have model. I think that worked fine. And so what I want to show there is so that when I go to this route and I'm going to my home and I want to see my notes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a collection of notes. And what I generally would do I would pass into here the parameters. Every view has some default parameters. You can assign anything to it, but those parameters that aren't built in go into the options, and then you can pull those out. But collection and model is built into the view. So I can say collection is notes, and then I can say notes.fetch. And so this would normally go and make the call, Ajax call to get the notes. And in our section, in our PhoneGap app, we were making calls to LawnChair. So I had to create my own sync method for LawnChair. So let's go here. Let's hit refresh. So you can see here, it's calling read and it's passing in the object. I forgot how I was getting it. I can get the name of the object. So let's put a breakpoint inside there so we can see what's going on. Breakpoint. All right, so inside here, our model class will have, I know how I was doing it before. I was passing another parameter. So part of the options is it passes the success and the error function. So what we'll do is we're going to say, if we're just going to return a collection of notes because that's our only call right now. So we're going to fake it out. So if I go to sync, and I think this is good because you can see how sync is working and understand, so you can do your own stuff if you don't want to use the regular routing. So we're going to make, let's make 3 notes. New note, and each note we're going to have a title for now. Will be note 1, and we're going to actually we can probably just call options.success and pass in the data as a JSON. This is me. I haven't done it, mocked it out this way before, so we're going to find out if it works. Success. We're going to return an array, and then we're going to have one as title notes 1. Did I not do that right, or why is it yelling at me? Title notes 2, and title is great. All right. So this kind of should come back and set up our notes for us. So let's run this. Now, if we go inside here, we have, I don't think we'll be able to get a pointer for it. So what happens is, since this is supposed to be asynchronous all the time, you're supposed to be responding to events on the side and how this thing works. So if you look here, we have option success. We pull in our notes and we call fetch. We want to update our view when our notes are updated. So what we'll do is, and here we'll right now we'll just have a count. So we'll say count is equal to this dot collection dot length, and we'll pass it in here and call this count. So let's go back to our template, and here we'll just show our count here. So we call our node template, we get our count set up, and so here what we want to do is say this dot collection dot bind, because our models and collection have events, and we want to bind to the reset. So reset is a global, like you completely reset this collection. So when we call our option success, it should reset this collection, and we want to call render when that happens. And so here we'll log this out so you can see it. All right. Boom. So now we call that sync. It posted, it clocked the 3 items, returned it back. And so notice we called render notes view twice. So the first time it rendered, it didn't have the nodes. And then after the collection was fetched, it called the reset event and then re-rendered this. So now we know we can pull these collections of notes. Now we want to see these notes. So we have a notes view, but we need a note view. So we'll do this thing here called note view. So you go backbone.view.extend, and we'll do initialize function. Find all this render. So now we make our render function. And remember, as we're doing this, remember return this, because if you leave it off, it breaks. So now we have a note view. We're going to have a template for this, so let's set the template. The template's going to be .template note template, and we want to take the HTML, pour it out, and in this case, when we get this .el, let's do this, and then we want to set the HTML. Before, notice we're passing in a hash, a JSON hash. What we'll do here instead is we'll call this .model.toJSON. And so that will take all the model properties, form into a JSON hash, and pass it to the view. And so let's do that right here. Have a note template, and we'll just show the title. Now, when we get to our notes view, what we're going to do is we'll still pass in this template. Now, what we're going to do is say this collection function note. So we're looping our collection of notes. We're going to create a new note view from this. We're going to set on that note view the model to this note. We're then going to we need to have a list that we're going to show this to, so we'll make that notes list. We're going to say list.append view.render. Yeah. So I'm going to make let's make that notes list right here. UL ID equal notes list. Sometimes I've had problems with the IDs, so actually I'm going to change that from notes list to class. I haven't really debugged entirely why that's happening. It's probably just because it's not loaded to the DOM yet. That's why I can't find it. So let's say notes list, and we're going to look through all that, use the note template. Let's see what happens. All right, so what's going on here? Normally when that isn't happening, we want to double check that this is being called. And so, yeah, so if this is length is 0, it's not finding the notes list class. So let's inspect that and see. Class notes list. Did I misspell anything inside of there? Go back up here. Notes list. And sometimes you can qualify that by saying this will only search that section. Boom. Okay, so now that looks like it found one. Okay, so now it should be working for us. Unless it's hating. It's hating on me. Let's reset this. Then I missed something. This collection. For each one, loop over those. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to put a breakpoint there and see what's going on. So this dot collection is an array of 3. But it's not liking looping over that. I wonder why. Attributes, note, callback. So sometimes I've had problems looping over it if the model isn't being set right or appropriately. But in this case it is. So let's check that. Say this dot collection models. Okay. Callback, attributes, notes. That's really whack. Why isn't he working? This collection. Let's try this. So they have extensions for the underscore functions are automatically part of collection. So that's helpful. Let's try this. And welcome to JavaScript debugging fun. Console log, console log, console log. All right, so there we go. I think it's because collection doesn't have anything. It's probably collection.models, but we'll just roll with this. It's cleaner looking anyway. Boom. There we go. And there we go. So now we're looping through the notes and we're displaying them in each of our views. Now, an important part of this, if you take a look at, is that we're in a unordered list, but we have a collection of list item or divs. We can change those divs to something else. We can change it to a list item by doing tag name. So instead of div, we can say the tag name is li. So now when we go back and we hit refresh, those are actually now list items in the unordered list.
Right.
Boom. Anyway, we're 15 minutes past 1 o'clock. And we're slowly down to it. Was like me and you just talking, Claudia. So
yeah, I'm observing. It's like, yeah, this looks good, man.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It provides a really sound structure, and that once you know the essence of how to do the stuff, you can get a lot done, and you can share it between people, and I can look at your background code, and I know what you're doing.
Very cool.
All right. Anyway, that's it. I can share more doing different things next week.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, just keep building on top of this, I guess.
Yeah, something like that. Or you can come up with a cool app to think of, and I'll do it.
There you go. Well, I mean, we are gonna hopefully soon get to, work on the virtual brown bag side again, introducing some new things in there, maybe. That would be a good chance.
Yeah, we can maybe change the suggestion engine stuff to actually use this type thing, I guess. I don't know. We'll find. Well, there's certain applications. I'll talk offline with you about some stuff, too, because I have some crazy ideas.
Sounds good, man.
Talk to you later.
All right. Yes, yeah, good time to wrap up. Thanks, the troopers who stuck around with us there. And I'll see you guys all next week. Bye.